Welcome to episode 6 of the 10 and Tomb Editor tutorial level. This time, we're going to create a bridge by using the bridge flat and bridge tilt objects, add another trap, and this time using flames, add lava, what's known as the death square, some other visual effects such as fog bulbs, include some pushable puzzles, raising blocks, and what are known as heavy triggers. The room that we created behind this door, this is where we're going to create a nice bridge over some lava. To do this, change the length of it to 17. Mine is currently 3 long, so I'm going to add 14 more blocks. And we want to make it 3 blocks wide with the current portal in the center. Once that's done, just make it uniform. So I'm going to bring down the ceilings. At both ends, we want to create a 3-block long corridor. So I'm going to add a wall there, here, and then do the same at the other end. And in the middle, this is where we're going to create our fire pit with the bridge to go over it. We want a ledge at both sides. So select the floor, but not the 3 at each end, and pull it down by about 12 clicks. At the moment, we can see that the floor is at 21. And so if we bring it down by 12 clicks, then that number will go down to 9. To create the rope bridge, we're going to be using some static objects first of all. Static 31, 32, and 33. First, go for static 33. And this is the steepest part of the bridge. And we want to place it here. You might need to rotate it so it's facing the most logical direction. And then pull it up so that you can imagine Lara walking down it. I'm going to copy and paste and put one at the other end. Spin it round. Then with static 32, this one is slightly shallower. So the first one is 2 clicks down, this one is 1 click down. Copy and paste and put it on the other side. And then static 31 is the flat one, and I'm going to put this on the rest. Spin it round so it looks good. You can actually select more than one object, and here it would save us some time. So by holding the control key while one object is selected, I'm going to select another, and I can just copy both together and then paste. And then now I've pasted 2. To make the rope bridge look more realistic, we're going to add some objects at the ends. And for this, we want statics 19 and 20. Place them on the square at the end of the bridge and then rotate them. You might need to move them into position so the end of the rope goes down and connects to the bridge. So the bridge looks ready, but these are just objects. Lara's not going to actually be able to walk on them. And these objects as well have no collision, so she's just going to fall through. And this is where we're going to use bridge objects. In the objects menu, scroll up just above the statics and you'll see bridge flat, bridge tilt 1, and bridge tilt 2. Select bridge flat and place it underneath one of the central tiles where the bridge is actually going to be flat. Just raise it up and you won't really be able to see anything, and that's because it's textured as transparent. To be able to see it better, go to the menu where we normally turn on and off objects and click Draw Bounding Boxes. And then it will show you what the object looks like in terms of its bounding box. You can see that it's 1 block wide. And what bridge objects are, they're objects that you can add so Lara can walk on them. It's an alternative to creating ledges. One reason you might want to use them is so that you don't have to split rooms into lots of different ones to add the ledges. Here, we've only got 1 room. If I wanted to create proper ledges underneath the bridge, I would have to split it into 2, possibly 3 stacked rooms. If we lift it up then, just checking that the top of the bridge object also matches the top of where these logs are, then Lara will walk across. The bridge objects in our ward are transparent. This allows us to be really flexible with their usage, and we can then use objects without collision, just like we have here with the logs for the bridge, to create the illusion that Lara can walk on them. When you create your own WODs though, you might find bridge objects out there on the internet that already look like an object. That's okay, they work in exactly the same way, but it just means that you can only have that one type of bridge in a level. It all depends on what you intend to do. That way, depending on your creativity, you've got full flexibility. Let's add some bridge flat objects to the other ones. And then bridge tilt 1 is a tilt of 1 click. So we can add this to the next ones at the ends. It's a bit difficult to tell what way round it is, as it's not clear whether the bridge is tilting down this way or down this way. If you rotate it enough, sometimes a little black line appears, and that's where the edge of the object is. I can just see it here, and I notice that it's the wrong way round. So I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees, add it at the other end. I copied and pasted it, so I need to rotate this one back 180 degrees. And then bridge tilt 2 is a slope of 2 clicks. Repeat the process. With the bounding boxes visible, they should look like this. So the 2-click bridge, the top of the bounding box should be level with the ledge there. And then just make sure it looks like this. When you test it in game, if you have any issues, it might be because they're wrongly rotated. So the gameplay in this room is that as Lara comes across the bridge, she has to dodge some flames. And these flames are timed in that they turn on for a number of seconds and then turn off. For this, we want just the normal flame emitter. Last time we used flame emitter 2. This is just the first flame emitter. About 3 blocks from the other end of the bridge, I'm going to add one of these flame emitters to the side, to the left side, and I'm going to bring it up. Imagine it's facing Lara's head, so about 2 clicks from the top of the bridge. And think of the flame. So these types of blowing flames, they blow out of the cone towards its narrow end. We want 3 of these, but it makes sense to save time to set this up how we want first. Click the O button and we're going to enter an OCB of -21. Flame emitters have lots of OCB settings, and this dictates exactly what they do and also for how long. This OCB means that it will blow flames for about 5 seconds and then they will turn off for 2 seconds, giving Lara the opportunity to run past. While we're still in this menu, we can actually change the color of flames as well. By default, they're a natural orange color, but I want these to be a sort of supernatural type of flame, so we're going to go for a blue, why not? And I'm just going to make it a bit darker, and then click OK. And now we can copy and paste this object. I'm going to put one on the other side, about halfway across the bridge, lift it up to the same height, and then we need to turn it around so that the flames blow in the right direction. And then let's paste another one about 3 clicks from the beginning of the bridge, but back on the other side. Raise it up to the same height as the others. Let's trigger these flames. And unlike with the other flames where we want to trigger them out of sight, so it looks like the flames are always on, for dramatic effect, I don't want these to actually light until Lara gets closer to them. So I'm going to put the triggers about 1 block back from the edge of the bridge. The flames will just look like they're blowing out of the middle of the tile though, which is a bit weird. It makes sense if it looks like they're blowing out of something. You could make them blow out of the wall by pushing them back behind the wall, but I'm going to use an object which looks like it's breathing fire. And for this, let's use static object 23 and place it so that the lips are about level with the cone. We're going to turn the floor into lava, but lava's pretty hot, right? I think it's going to harm Lara, if not kill her. And what we can do is we can set something on the floor that causes instant flame death. So select all of the floor tiles and then go up to the side and click this green icon, Set Death Sector Property. It will appear green in the 2D map. Before we add the textures, I want to add another visual effect. There are lots of types of null mesh for visual effects, and another one is called the ember emitter. You can go to the 10 website to find more, but to find this one, let's search for ember, and you'll find ember emitter. And I'm going to place 2, one just underneath the bridge there, and another one towards the end. Remember, they don't have to be exactly in the middle. You can place them wherever you like. I'm just going to move these off a little bit. What these will do is that they'll shoot up little globules of lava, a bit like how they are in Tomb Raider 1, and you can add an OCB here to change the settings. In this first one, I'm going to enter OCB 10. What that will do is that it will spit bits of lava about 1 block wide, and with the other, I'm going to set 15. just so it's a bit different to the other, but a few might hit Lara once she goes over the bridge, but only a little bit. So it can actually be harmful to her. As with flame emitters, you can change the color of these embers. I'm going to leave them as default for now. We also need to trigger them. I'm going to trigger them at the same place as the flames. And for another visual effect, I'm going to add a fog bulb. Fog, as you might guess, is a bulb of fog, and you can make them any color, any size, and any strength. For us, let's create a little red one so it looks like there's some hot mist merging from the lava that's going to be on the floor. To add a fog bulb, go down to the lighting panel and select fog bulb. Add it to the middle at the bottom. Let's keep it at the bottom because we want the widest part of the fog bulb to be at the base of the room, and then it gets narrower as it goes upwards. Let's change the color to a kind of reddish orange. Let's just change the size a bit. I don't want it to go all the way to the top of the room, to about there. And the intensity is quite important with fog bulbs. By default, it's 0.5, which is very thick. I'm going to lower this all the way down to 0.08. We'll see how it looks in game, but then it's a little bit more of a subtle fog bulb effect. It won't block out the whole room. As with other lights, you don't need to trigger that or anything. Before we light and texture this room, let's do something with the ceiling. It's a bit low at the moment. I'm going to use one of the other geometry tools. We created half pipe before. Let's just experiment and use pyramid. So with the left mouse button held and dragged upwards, it creates kind of a nice sloped ceiling, but with a flat top. Segment the walls and texture as you see fit. For the floor, there are some lava textures in the texture set. These are static textures, they don't animate, but you could, if you wanted, even use animating textures, just like we did with the water room. So the room is textured. Remember, if these bounding boxes get in your way, you can always turn them off. In terms of lighting, lava obviously creates its own light, so we want to make sure that the bottom is pretty bright, with a bright kind of red orangey color. So to do that, I'm going to add some point lights, but I don't want the out to be quite so far. When the flames come out, they will actually provide a lot of their own light. But I'm going to add a sun bulb. It's generally good practice. In this case, though, I'm going to make it point upwards because a lot of the light in this room is coming from the lava. So I'm going to pull it down here with this green line pointing upwards. And I'm going to change the color to sort of orangey red. I'm going to add some shadow bulbs into these corners just to add a bit of contrast. To introduce this part of the level in dramatic fashion, we're going to create a flyby camera sequence. As the name suggests, this is a sequence of cameras that flies through your levels, and you can create some really cool cinematic shots. In this room, we want the flyby camera to start near Lara, go to one side, then the other, and then back to the middle at the other side, but the whole time pointing at Lara. Let's set the first camera. So go to the top and choose Add Flyby Camera, and we'll add it just at the front of the bridge. Move it up slightly off the floor. See the red cone? This is the focus of the camera. So we want to twist it round just so that it's facing where Lara will be when she comes in the room. If you want to make sure that it moves exactly to the right place, if you hold down Control, it will move at 45-degree increments. Press O and it will bring up the flyby camera options. But the thing to point out for now is the sequence number. This is our first sequence, so we can actually just leave it as 0. But then the next time we have one later in the level, we need to make sure that this is 1. Copy this camera and paste it about where this head is. And let's drag it up a little bit. Just going to pull it in slightly so that it doesn't clip through the object itself. Move the cone towards where Lara will be. Let's actually move the camera down so it's not on the same level as the one in front. If you look at the red cone, you'll see this little pointy arrow. This shows you how much it's going to roll. It's perfectly vertical, so there is no roll at the moment, but we can use the blue axis and change it. I want to make it roll to the left a bit, about that, and you get a really nice sweeping camera shot. If you press the O button and look in roll, you can see exactly how many degrees that is. So it counts between 0 and 360. And if you go left, then that's how it counts up. So we've gone 40 degrees to the left here. If you want to make sure it's an exact number of degrees, then of course you can type the number into here. Let's paste another camera about where this head is, and we're going to make it go lower. We don't need to clip through the bridge. Notice how as you create cameras, you can actually see how it's going to sweep round, which is pretty neat. I'm going to bring it in closer to the bridge as well. Turn the cone so that it's facing Lara, also slightly up. And with this one, I want it to bank the other way. So I'm going to pull this. Then paste one final camera, just one block back from the end of the bridge. I'm going to leave the roll just at 0. And because we pasted the cameras, it's automatically updated their sequence. So this first one is sequence 0, camera number 0, although technically it's the first one. The next one is sequence 0, camera number 1, sequence 0, camera number 2, and so on. Go back to the first camera and press O. There's a few other options we need to check. You've got lots of things here on the right. A few things are quite important. We want the camera to cut straight from Lara to the start of the camera. So we're going to tick this. If you don't tick this, then the camera that's behind Lara will then gradually feed into the flyby, which can be a nice effect, but here it will clip through the wall, and so I don't want that. At the end of the sequence, I also want it to snap back to Lara's normal camera. I don't want the player to be able to break the flyby sequence by pressing the look button, so I'm going to click this. And I'm also going to click cinematic mode. What this means is you get 2 black bars coming down from the screen to create this cinematic effect, plus it stops Lara from being able to move. There are some other options on the left that we could use. Speed dictates how fast you go through the camera sequence. This takes some trial and error. I think for us, the speed is probably going to be okay at the default 1.0. You can also change the field of vision. If you want the camera to focus in, then lower this number. If you want a more wide shot view, then raise this number. And this can also create some really cool effects. For us, we're just going to leave it at default. Click OK. The only other thing to change in our sequence is with the last camera. With this one, we want it to freeze for about a second. So we're going to click the box which says freeze camera. Notice it says timer field. So what you put in the timer field will dictate how long it freezes. And the formula here is the number of seconds times 300. So I'm going to type 300 into the timer field. Of course, we need to trigger the flyby sequence. So select the first camera, the square where it needs to be triggered, add a trigger. Make sure that one shot is clicked, otherwise it will just loop endlessly as long as Lara is on that square. And I actually also want to add a music track. So select the square again, add a trigger this time for an audio, and we want parameter 41, so track number 41. I wanted to build a portal going off in this direction, but you can only build portals on the edge walls of a room. Here is actually a green wall that we built. So I'm just going to get rid of that wall. So we press the set floor button to get rid of it. And that way I can actually build a new portal. So create a new room off here and extend it so it's 9 clicks long. Change the room size. If it's not 9 clicks, just count and change it by adding some at the bottom, and add 4 to each side. I want to extend the length of this corridor, so I'm just going to add a wall to each side to extend it. And in this room, what we're going to do, we're going to create a trapdoor and a key so that when Lara uses the key, the trapdoor opens and she can jump down. And we'll also create a pushable puzzle so that she can find the key in the first place. Let's just increase the height of the room. I'm going to add about 12 more clicks. You can see the height is at 25, so I'm going to bring it up to 37. In the center of the room, we're going to use this square as another portal down into another room later, and the trapdoor will be above this. We're going to create a platform around it. Select these squares and just raise them up by 4 clicks. And then on the other ones around, we're going to create some diagonal walls. And in 10, Lara can climb these diagonal walls as well. We don't want the wall to go from wall to ceiling, so we're not going to use the diagonal wall button over here. Instead, we're going to split the floor first. So select the floor and then click floor step, and that will split it. If you click floor step again, it will move it round. Make sure that the line is going from one block to the other block, and then click and hold and raise it up. Repeat the process with the others. And then at the back of this, I'm going to raise this by 8 clicks, and we're going to put a keyhole here, and the trapdoor will go over this gap. So let's add the keyhole, search the objects, and just type in key. It will bring up a key, click again, and it should bring up keyhole 1. Place it on the square in front of this block, rotate it around, and then let's add a trapdoor over this gap. Search for trapdoor, place it, move it into position. With this, you can see what angle the trapdoor will go down once it's triggered. It's got the hinges on this side, meaning that the trapdoor will go down in that direction. You can place trapdoors anywhere in the room and Lara will stand on them. Let's create a little alcove where she can find the key. And for this, go to the middle of the room on this side and raise up the floor until it's 12 clicks high, or at least so that there's 4-click gap at the top. The important thing is that Lara can't climb up here yet. She needs something to help her out. Create a wall around it so it's a proper alcove, and add the key onto this square. So just search for key. On this square, just underneath it, I'm going to add what's called a raising block. Just type in raising, and you'll find raising block 1, but we want raising block 2. Add it to this square, and when it's triggered, this block will come up from the floor up to the height that you can see, which is 8 clicks, and Lara can stand on it. Although we can see it in the editor now, when you go into game, it won't actually appear like this. You need to trigger it and then make it come up. Lara can jump from this platform onto there, and get the key. But we want to create another puzzle to make this raising block go up. And for this, we're going to use a pushable. On the other side of the room, just select all of the floor like this and lower it by 1 click. On one of the squares, I'm going to use this one, add a pushable object. If we type in push into the objects menu, we get pushable object 1. Add it to the square. Just rotate it round about 90 degrees. I'm going to rotate it so that the cat is actually looking towards the room. The reason is that we want this circle at the top to be facing a particular way. That will become important in a minute. And what Lara can do is that she can push this object. She can go to the left side or the right side, and she can push or pull it along this groove. If the whole floor was the same height, so totally flat, she could also push it the other directions. So I've deliberately changed the floor height so that she can't actually push it in the other directions. The puzzle is, when Lara pushes it over to this square at the end, it will then trigger the raising block from earlier. So let's add a trigger for the raising block there. Make sure the square is selected, click on raising block, and then add trigger. This time we want to use a different type of trigger, which is called a heavy trigger. Heavy means that it's triggered by anything other than Lara. So it could be a pushable object, it could be an enemy, it could be a trap like a rolling ball. As soon as they hit the trigger, then something is triggered. So select heavy and click OK. That means that when the pushable object is on the square, the raising block will be triggered. Just be careful when using heavy triggers, because something else could theoretically trigger it if you've got an enemy in the room, for instance. This is a very simple pushable puzzle, and you can do much more advanced ones, but see a pushable objects tutorial for more information about how that would work. The thing is, the player needs some sort of clue. They need to know why they want to push this over to this block. And for this, we're going to create a light beam, and as soon as Lara pushes this little circle on the top of the pushable into the light beam, it triggers the raising block. The light beam itself is actually just another object. If you go down to static 21, add it to this square, and it's a 1 block sized light beam. Raise it up a little bit and turn it round 180 degrees because we want it going from the wall over here, which is higher, all the way down. To make sure we've got it the right height, I'm going to move the pushable so that we can tell when the pushable is moved there that the light beam goes straight through this circle. So I think I need to raise it one more. We can move the pushable back. And then I'm going to add more of these light beam objects just to create the illusion that it goes from wall to wall, but at a certain angle. And then we want to create something on the wall just to make it look like it's coming from a source. Go to static 22 and add this and pull it up so it looks like the light beam is coming out of it. So we've triggered the raising block. She grabs the key. Now we need to set a trigger so that when she uses the key, the trapdoor goes down. To do this, select the keyhole and the square underneath, add a trigger, and automatically it should say trigger type key. Click OK. Then we'll add a trigger for the trapdoor. And just like with switches, nothing will actually happen until the keyhole is triggered. Let's take a look at the ceiling and do something with this. I'm going to use pyramid like we did in the previous room, but I'm going to bring it down this time just to create a different effect. Then we'll texture and light the room. With the raising block and texturing, the top of the raising block will actually be at exactly the same height as the floor before it's triggered. And we don't want it to fight with the texture on the floor. So we're just going to texture the floor there transparent. So here we go. Let me explain some of my design decisions. I think the room looked a little bit bare, so I've just added a few more objects. I added a couple of columns here, which meant that I needed to bring down the ceiling. I added some bright point lights near this beam of light to make it look like it's emitting light. And I added a sun bulb directing some yellow light towards the entrance of the room, which might be a little bit more realistic if something is emitting yellow light, and it also casts a couple of nice shadows behind this geometry. I also added some shatter vases. We did this with the secret room earlier, but this time I want to add an object so that when she shatters the vase, the object appears. Go into geometry mode and let's find an object. Let's be super generous. Let's give her the actual Uzi guns. If we add the Uzi underneath, the vase might be big enough to cover the Uzi, and in that case, you could just get away with it because the Uzi is hidden. But the proper thing to do here, and especially if the vase is quite small, is to make the object first invisible. So make sure the Uzi is selected. If you need to move the vase out of the way, then you can, just to make it easier. Click O, and then tick invisible. To make it visible again, we have to trigger the object. We don't want Lara to trigger this, the vase is triggering it. And if you remember what we learned about heavy triggers, that means that we need to add a heavy trigger here. So with the square selected, add a trigger, make sure it says heavy trigger, that's really, really important. Click OK, and then move the vase back onto the square. If you want, you could put some objects under the other vases. I'm just going to leave them empty. So testing this bit of the level then, we want to make sure that the pushable triggers the raising block. You should hear the sound of the block raising, and if we take a look over there, there it is. Just check that the Uzi appears when we shoot the vase. So what did we do in this lesson? We created a bridge using some bridge objects. We also made a lava room and making the floor deadly, created some blue timed flames, added a flyby camera, created a puzzle with a pushable item and a heavy trigger, and we used a key with a keyhole and a trapdoor. Still to come, Lara tries to avoid some teeth spikes, and she flips a room into a water room. We create some steps that are smaller than one click, and get to grips with the basics of Lua scripting. And we'll also add some nice visual and sound effects to the level.